there it was. There I was thinking it was just me that had a problem, but it turns out it's the air conditioning that's sexist.
I know. So many women in our office have the exact same problem. You know, we just sit there absolutely freezing at our desks trying to type. You can probably tell I've got a cold right now, which I blame all on the AC. And so it's just so actually quite nice to see this research. It's just such a relief to know that there's actually proof that this is happening, that women, you know, do feel the cold more than men, and that the AC in offices is normally regulated more for a male's temperature than a woman's. Yeah, exactly. And I think, you know, one of the biggest problems is that often in offices it is men who control temperatures. You know, that's just something I've found anecdotally. And because majority of the men in offices seem to be absolutely fine with the temperatures, you know, women kind of just sit there on the corner feeling absolutely frozen.
Emma, hi. You're neither male nor female, right?
That's true. I identify as non-binary, which means that I'm neither male nor female, and correspondent to that, I use the they, them pronoun.
And you say gender roles are damaging our society, so we need to think very carefully about language, yeah?
Yes.
Women's rights or Islam? What?
Why is that even a question? Oh my God.
We're not. This is not about Islam.
Mate,
but your rights are. Why are you at this rally asking that question, provoking like an argument, which there's no point? Why can't we just plan together about feminism instead of you coming along here and starting a religious debate? Because some people believe you should be stoned for the crime of being raped, and if you are protesting rape, you should be protesting the people that want to hurt you for being raped as well. Why are you just letting this go past? Why are you doing this?
Why in particular did you use Islam?
Because there is a big problem with how women are treated under Islam.
Right. So you didn't first ask her whether or not she identifies as a Muslim?
No, I'm asking feminists.
Why are you not asking Muslim women about this? Why are you asking...
Well, you don't see a whole lot here, do you? Their husbands probably didn't let them come.
Oh my God! Did you just hear what she said to me? She said, I don't see a lot of Muslim women here. Their husbands didn't let them come. Dude, you're doing this for...
ignorant.
No, she's doing this for
Go and read the Quran.
Go away.
I've read passages and there's a lot more violence in the Bible, and believe me, I grew up Catholic.
That's why you see Christians running people over in the streets of London. We are asking the question to everyone here, would you rather have women's rights or Islam?
That's not a choice. We can have both, because actually, if you look at the history and the facts, 1400 years ago, women in Islam were granted rights that women in the West did not have.
What about your Prophet Muhammad, who had an underage wife who he beat?
I don't believe that's true.
That is true, that is a fact.
As a Muslim practicing woman, I'm telling you that's not a fact.
I mean, we will put up the facts on the screen here for people and they can read it themselves, but that did happen. So I think you need to look into your religion a little more.
Please do not tell me what I, as a young Muslim woman of colour, need to do about my faith.
I don't care what color you are. I don't care what gender you are. We're talking facts right now.
So would you be asking this to a white Muslim woman as well?
Why, absolutely. Be careful with my questions.
She was complaining about questions, I don't know.
Would you rather have women's rights or Islam?
Women's rights.
Women's rights?
Yeah.
I wonder why they don't do this in like Rotherham. So if you're not going to support the march, then I don't think it's very fair that you're here. We're doing interviews. Yeah, you're asking stupid questions. You're asking, how do you know? How do you know that my camera woman is not off? Literally, we will show you. Off. No, it's a women's march. There's no men on the march.
What if he supports the march? Is that a problem?
No on the march. No, you're supposed to be doing a job. No men on the march. No men on the march. No men on the march. Get him out. 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 Y'all are crazy. Y'all are crazy.
There's a group of women that were here and they're wishing to withdraw consent to use the footage that you had, I guess, gotten. So can you please make sure that is done and make sure that any of the stuff that they have...
We may or we may not use the footage. It is a public area, so we do have legal rights to use the footage.
But you interviewed them specifically, right? So
yes, and they gave us consent to interview them.
Well, now they're withdrawing it, so...
That's not how it works, but...
Which is interesting given the event that you're at, right? That's a little bit contradictory.
What do you mean it's a little bit contradictory?
Well, if
I totally say it, that's not how it works.
Well,
You can't just withdraw consent the next, like...
well, that's interesting.
Why is that interesting?
It's just
I don't know.
No, tell me what...
Like a rally for like rapists, like, you know, consent and like withdrawing consent, saying like no means no. They're saying no, and you're saying that like.
Okay, so if someone gives consent the night before, and then they have listen. If they have sex with a man and they give consent to him, then the next day decide, oh, I regret it. I'm going to report him for being a rapist, even though I gave him consent. You're saying that's okay?
So you're sounding a little bit like a 12-year-old because this is irrelevant.
All right.
Would you use Homo sapiens?
I very rarely in my life use scientific language to describe the people I work with.
Wise man, it means. Okay. But I mean, it's something, do we need to think about that?
I think we certainly should be
in biology.
thinking about the evolution of language to support gender neutrality.
Yeah, got you.
And that's for a number of reasons. The first of which is that it stops this assumption that either the most important people in the room are men or that the only people in the room are men.
Those sorts of things, humankind or mankind, I mean, those are sort of interchangeable now. They're synonymous anyway. We're talking about when people actively, and it is a minority of activists, it really is a minority, seek to have people disciplined or sacked because they refuse to use language that they are imposing. That's not the evolution of language, that's the imposition of language, and I think that's problematic.
I think it really depends on the context. So you may, for example, that's perfectly grammatical.
But I wouldn't say, you hear what it said. That's rude, isn't it?
Yeah, I would say that it is dehumanising.
Yeah.
It shouldn't ever be a voice for the entirety of the trans community. Some people may self-select to use it,
Right.
but it in general is quite a dehumanising approach.
Isn't this actually bad for women? The suffragettes would be appalled about this, wouldn't they?
Well,
They want
ultimately,
women
it's
to be
an
noticed.
opt-in
They
and a
want women to
fluid
be out there. They want women to achieve and for other women to know that they have achieved.
We're all male and female. We've always... Yes, of course, we're all male and female. There are
What about transgender people?
There are a tiny minority of people who have intersex conditions, and there are a tiny minority of people who have some condition where they may have a female brain and a male body. Apart from this, we are all male and female, and the attempt to suggest that there is a third gender is, as far as I'm concerned, it's an ideological and a political project. It doesn't exist. The words male and female have existed throughout history, throughout the world. They refer, men are people who have penises, women are people who have vaginas. It's as simple as that. I would absolutely refuse to refer to this woman here, who's clearly a woman, as a they, because for me that would be imposing an ideological political system. Because she is. If everybody watching this programme can see that she is a woman. And that is imposing.
That's your problem. I think that's actually your
imposing
problem. You're imposing.
No, you are asking me to engage in an ideological political system which I disagree with. I believe we are all male and female.
By what they should be called is imposing an ideological system.
No,
I really want to come back and address
just
some of the scientific inaccuracies.
Your respect for me is already diminished if you insist that I ascribe to some ideology of third gender, which I do not agree with. If this he and she is socially constructed, how come everybody watching this, everybody in the audience, can basically identify male and female just by looking? Occasionally there are people who are more difficult to identify, and we try to be tactful, but it's not just socially ascribed. It relates to a physical reality reflected in our voices, our appearances, in all kinds of ways.
Isn't life a great spectrum? They're a great jumper. They want to say something.
They, yeah.
Are you they, or do I say she wants to say something?
I am a female. That's my belief system.
Do you want me to say she wants to say something?
And that is fine. However, the idea that you're saying that if this person chooses to say that they are they, that you can't engage with that because of your belief system. We live in a culture where lots of people have lots of different beliefs, as is very, very clear on today's show. We cannot say, I have this belief system, so therefore I'm going to impose it on everyone. In this, you can't do that. Like, she has a particular... They have a particular... Look, at least I accept that.
Now, you work for the Daily Telegraph. I want your mission next week to go to the Telegraph and to convince the editor to use gender-neutral language from now on.
Nicky,
How will that go down?
The truth is, the Telegraph pretty much does use gender-neutral language. It doesn't use they, but it uses firefighter and it uses chair. Truth is, language is organic. It reflects the society that it comes out of, and you can impose bits of it, but ultimately, is they going to stick as a personal pronoun for one person? I kind of doubt it, because actually, that's not how most people see the world. And I think, you know, we're kind of right on the margin here. I'm father of 2 daughters. I think, actually, firefighter is better than fireman.
Yeah.
My 2 girls, if they want to work in the fire service, terrific.
Because it's accurate.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we should get too hung up. If you want to tie yourself in knots, ultimately, the arbiter of whether that works or not will be the way people use language, and they will accept it or reject it on a basis of common sense, because there's nothing more utilitarian than language.
And quite happily...
Belinda.
We mustn't lose sight of the fact that language does refer to a reality. As a writer, I'm very aware of this. It's very important. He, she refers to a male and female reality. And I think that there is something very serious at stake if we really do start eroding concepts of male and female, which I believe is happening.